Maxx Crosby and the Niners. It seems like they've been kind of flirting with each other openly on social media for a while. Diamador Lenore has been recruiting him on Twitter and X. And then Maxx Crosby came to the Bay Area for the NBA All-Star game and wrote a long thing on X where he capitalized the first letter of every word, which means he meant it, and talked about how much he loves the Bay Area. I mean, there's clearly mutual interest. It would probably cost a first-round pick plus. Is this where the Niners start this offseason? Go get a hell of an edge rusher?
I feel like Lenore like recruits everybody. Like especially if there's rumors like this person's on the trade block, like he's out there recruiting them, right? So I think that's just what he does. But
that's true. You gotta respect the hustle, though. The grind doesn't stop.
Well, absolutely. Like how many other players are doing that? But a first round pick, like I don't. And I think this kind of coincides with the topics that we're getting into, but I don't know that they should be. I don't know if they want to give. They should be giving away their first round picks. Like I know Maxx Crosby is good, but they need to get younger and cheaper.
That's true. My thought was if they're going to go edge rusher in round 1 at 11. Mm-hmm. They could do that. They could take one of the guys from Georgia or the dude from Tennessee, and those guys might be great, but they probably won't be as good as Maxx Crosby, although one of them might be better. But if you're going to go that direction anyway, it's a thought. You could give him an extension. You can make him affordable in the short term. He's a better player than Bosa. Yeah, I said it.
If that was the case, I guess I would have to compare it with Garrett, right? Like what's Garrett's cost versus Crosby? Then what can you get Garrett on the books for versus what can you get Crosby on the books for? I don't even know what's their age difference, right? Is Garrett's like 20? Is he 29? I think
Garrett's 29. I believe Crosby's 27. I think Crosby's about 2 or 3 months older than Bosa.
Okay.
Yeah. So he kind of fits their core age. He'd probably get invited to Cabo, but like you said, he'd be expensive. I just feel like if they're thinking about going D end at 11, this is another alternative. You could just trade this pick for a all-pro D end, but he's older.
Yeah.
And then you trade Brock Purdy for another quarterback on his rookie deal. Simple.
Who's the new Raiders GM? I forgot.
I forget his name, but Brady and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and some guy.
I was gonna say maybe could you get the Raiders to give him to you for like a second? I don't know.
No.
I
mean, no. What do you think he's worth? A first and a third, a first and a second, 2 firsts? Not 2 firsts.
Not 2 firsts.
First and a third?
Yeah, especially. Yeah.
Could you send him a third this year and then give him a 1 next year?
It would help. It would help if he requests a trade. That would help. That would help lower his price a little bit.
It's true. What about this? Is the fact that there is potentially a bunch of premier edge rushers available this offseason potentially suppress the value of each one? Like someone's going to go get Myles Garrett. He'll be the top one. And then that team won't be in the market for an edge rusher anymore. It'll be one less team. And I don't know.
I think that could hurt. It could affect it a little bit, right? Like, but I feel like everyone's always kind of in the always looking for like a premier edge rusher. So it probably would affect it a little bit in the sense that, right, like where if you really wanted an edge rusher, you probably would want to go Garrett first, and you'd be interested in seeing how that plays out before you kind of make a move on Maxx Crosby, and maybe you would only want to make that move with Crosby as if they give you a really good deal on it. Like, I'll pull the trigger now, otherwise I'm going to wait and see if I can get Garrett, right? Like if you're trying to trade for Garrett, and especially if the asking price is close, I'd rather trade for Garrett. But then if the Raiders lowered their price a little bit more, then maybe you just pull the trigger on that one.
roll with me on this one too, and then we could change the topic because I'm not sure they're going to get Crosby or anyone like this. But it seems like with a player, a defensive end who's this good and this famous and this rich, they can potentially pick their spot a little bit. Like if some team called the Raiders and said, we want to trade for Maxx Crosby, it's the Titans. And Crosby says, I don't want to play for the Titans, and I wouldn't sign an extension there. I don't know that the Titans would necessarily trade a hell of a lot of picks to bring in a guy who doesn't want to stay long term. So when he says, I like the Bay Area, it could be him kind of like picking his spot. I'm not saying Myles Garrett wouldn't want to come to the Bay Area, but you don't know how people feel about Santa Clara. I don't know.
I mean, taxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Taxes, politics, yada yada yada. Some people are into it, some people aren't.
I mean, and Crosby has already experienced Bay Area taxes, right? So
yeah, and that's a good thing. So he's in. He seems to like everything about it. And Diamador Lenore wants him. So I mean, if Diamador Lenore wants him, how are you going to upset Diamador? How are you going to walk in to that facility and say, Diamador, I'm sorry, we just couldn't do it? Did you even try? Is there a player the Niners could trade for Crosby straight up?
But the thing is, you don't really see player for player deals in the
because
NFL.
of the way the cap is constructed, right?
Yeah, it's just
They should. It would make the NFL better.
But usually it's in the NFL, right? It's one team going one direction, the other's going another. So a team is not looking to add players, they're looking to add draft picks. They're not looking.
That's true, and that's the Raiders.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, ideally, they would turn Maxx Crosby into 4 draft picks that are pretty high over the next 2 drafts. But I don't know if they can do that.
I know that they're not. I know that they're not in the Bay Area anymore. But I just feel, I just would be shocked if the Raiders did a deal with the Niners. I just don't think they would do it. Like I know
why that was the case in the past. I think that's a Mark Davis thing. Maybe that still applies, but I wonder if like Tom Brady would be like, Mark, grow up.